we need a song in this. It kind of ties things together. And so when crypt doors creak and tombstones quake, spooks come out for a swinging wake. Happy hearts materialize and begin to vocalize. Grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize. So that was the key there, is these ghosts just are having a ball. They're having a good time.
The term grim-grimming ghosts actually is a phrase that Shakespeare used in a sonnet. And Exitensio says, you know, hey, I thought that up, and that very well could be. Maybe he's really well read, and you know, it kind of stuck in the back of his brain, or maybe, you know, two great minds had thought alike.
Mr. Thurl Ravenscroft was chosen to sing Exitensio's creation, Grim Grinning Ghosts.
We went ahead and recorded the thing, and they liked it. So then they said, now, we're going to film you guys, and we're going to make you up, your face and everything, maybe from here up, as a bust, plaster bust. And it's not going to be pleasant, but that's what we want. And they put our head in a vise, our neck in a vise, so we couldn't move. We could animate all we wanted, but we couldn't move our head. After we made a couple of takes, they said, now, would you want to see what you just did? We said, yeah. So he took us in a room, and there were our 4 busts. And I was standing looking at my profile, this in the plaster. And the minute that film came on,
as the moon climbs high over the dead oak tree, creepy creeps with eerie eyes.
I could see the inside of my mouth and my tongue and everything, you know, mugging to the playback. It was a weird experience.
Grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize.
As the clock ticked down to opening day, Grim Grinning Ghosts certainly tied the attraction together. Eventually, the mansion that opened to guests in 1969 was a combination of the ideas of many talented people at WED.
The Haunted Mansion, when it opened, Disneyland within a month broke its all-time record for attendance. It was a big deal, you know, to the population at large and to pop culture in general.
Some of the first effects for the mansion were quickly removed.
In this very spot, when Disneyland opened, was a notorious Hatbox ghost. And if you look at some of the publicity around that time, you'll see the great, you know, effects designer Yale Gracie posing with this ghost. And the way he stood was about like this, and he was kind of a mean guy. And his head disappeared and then appeared in a box that was for holding hats here. So this head came on, and then this one went away.
Doom Buggies has a photograph someone snapped riding it, so I know it was there. And there are the press pictures they took. And back in around, I think, around 1999, an Imagineer named Chris Merritt discovered the WED photos of the character, you know, their research photos. And so we know what it was supposed to do. We just don't know exactly how long it was actually installed in the Haunted Mansion.
At the same time across the country, Walt Disney World was rising out of the swamps of Central Florida. Its mansion would have a very New England look.
At Walt Disney World, the Haunted Mansion facade itself is much grander and larger, and it's more imposing, more of a big, kind of a brick mansion type, you know, almost a castle.
Some of the concepts from Disneyland's mansion that were left out were added to this new mansion just 2 years later. A library with ghostwriters, Little Leota, both were part of the ride-through now.
Up behind me here is the last character in the ride, and this is called Little Leota, and it was voiced and performed by Leota Toombs. Interesting last name. Leota's husband was Harvey Toombs, who was one of the great animators from the studio's heyday back in the 40s. And Leota did Madame Leota, the full-size head in the seance room, and she also did this.
A large graveyard was placed in front of the mansion as a living credits list to those who worked on this attraction.
I came up with the idea of putting epitaphs on the tombstones and kind of double as a screen credit for the guys who worked on it, you know.
One of the most famous ones, of course, is Master Gracie's tombstone, which was, you know, named in honor of Yale Gracie. And of course, this tombstone has taken on a life of its own because the fans and the cast members have kind of conspired over the past 40 years to make Master Gracie into the owner or the master of the house. And so now there's a whole mythology built up around Master Gracie, who must be the ghost host, and he must be the person in this picture and that picture. And really, there's very little evidence that the Imagineers ever meant that to be anything other than just a humorous tombstone in honor of Yale Gracie.
In Europe, however, the mansion was quite different. No longer called the Haunted Mansion, this time Jeff Burke and his team created an experience called Phantom Manor. Back at Disneyland, the mansion was still one of the favorite attractions of all time. 30 years after the mansion opened, the Fantasyland Theater played host to the Haunted Mansion 30th birthday event. Thousands came to see the masters of the mansion speak. Sam McKim, Rolly Crump, Ex Atencio, Buddy Baker, and Mark Davis. All were on hand in an amazing panel discussion that left the audience thrilled.
The thing that blew me away was we did it and it was a job. You know, it was no big deal. It was we came to work and that's what we did. And you'd have people come up and look at you and shake your hand like you're really something. And you're going, I'm not really something, I'm just like you, you know.
For 2001, the Haunted Mansion was transformed with the characters and theming of Tim Burton's 1993 classic, Nightmare Before Christmas. The all-new Haunted Mansion holiday was an enormous success and has spawned an enormous fan base.
Well, the Haunted Mansion definitely has a wide, varied fan base amongst Disney fans. There are the Disney fans that just love everything Disney, and it's a good example of Imagineering at its finest. There are the haunted house fans that just really love to see what can you do to make a haunted house if you don't have, you know, if you have unlimited resources, basically. There's kind of a goth community that's taken up the Haunted Mansion as their own.
There's even a national Haunted Mansion fan-based event called Bats Day, which has taken place each summer at the park since 1999. Founder and organizer Noah Corda is responsible for the activities that take place each year.
Basically, Bats Day, how it started, I was running sort of a goth industrial club. And then I have friends in Long Beach that run Release the Bats. And one day, my friends from Release the Bats are just kind of like, you know, hey, we're gonna go to Disneyland. We're gonna bring our patrons. Why don't you do the same thing? I said, sure. So we brought all our patrons, and I had like a scavenger hunt that we did, and we had some photo ops and stuff, and it was like kind of a cool little event.
Haunted Mansion tribute websites like doombuggies.com, founded by Jeff Bayham, have made headlines in USA Today.
I wanted to basically have a portfolio piece, so I decided, what can I, you know, make a website about that I can show people this is what I can do. And I loved Halloween and haunted houses and the Haunted Mansion in particular, so I thought, I think I'll try to put something together based on the Haunted Mansion.
In fact, the ride is so popular now that in 2003, Disney released the Haunted Mansion movie starring Eddie Murphy. In 2004, eBay and Disney auctioned off a chance to be the mansion's 1,000th ghost. One lucky winner paid over $30,000 to be buried at the mansion. They received their very own tombstone at Disneyland's Haunted Mansion. In 2008, Disneyland executives allowed two fan-based websites, doombuggies.com and extinctattractions.com, to have a private event in the park. The two sites were both celebrating their 10-year anniversaries, and to celebrate, they had what was called a swinging wake. The event called for 99 loyal fans to be treated to a sumptuous meal at the Blue Bayou and a private tour of Club 33.
You know, everyone has their favorite thing about the night. A lot of people loved meeting the hitchhiking ghosts. I mean, I've seen a number of variations of the hitchhiking ghosts over the years. Disneyland does it a little differently every time because they don't have a standard for the hitchhiking ghosts, but I had really never seen anything like this. And some people really love just being in the room with the Imagineers. I think that was probably the highlight for me, hearing them tell their memories.
They had some of the legends sitting at our tables, and I was lucky enough to get to sit at Harriet Burns's table. And I think that's great that Disney, you know, realizes how important these people are, you know, to the history of Disneyland and what it is today.
A private reception was held at the amazing Napa Rose restaurant with over 25 very close friends attending, including Neil Patrick Harris. The event featured a question and answer session and a trip with the Disney legends on the Haunted Mansion itself.
There's a religious experience that goes on when you talk about Disneyland, and there's stuff where people they'll say stuff back and forth, but there's an underlying current. You'll see it when X Atencio comes up and he talks and he says something, or you'll see it when Bob will talk about Walt or these kind of things, and you really, really get this collective love that these people have.
It just turned out great. It's a marvelous experience. Jesus, the best of my life was working with him.
I never intended to stay working for Disney, and I stayed 31 years because I couldn't stand to quit. You know, it was just one of those things. Every project was so interesting. It was a carrot on the stick. I think, well, now I'm ending, now I'll quit. No, then something was coming up that would be so interesting. I think, well, I'll stay for that. And so I stayed all those years because it was just a marvelous career, the whole thing.
In the years to come, the mansion will continue to thrill and chill Disneyland visitors, and it is thanks to the talented Disney legends that the Haunted Mansion has become the beloved and iconic attraction that it is today.